We will now begin the Boynton Beach CRA meeting today, Tuesday, May 14, 2019 at 6:33 p.m. Would everyone please rise for an invocation by Board Member McCray, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us bow to the creator maker of all mankind. Heavenly Father, here we are once more again, asking that you look down upon this great city, also the elected officials as well as the residents of this great city. We ask that you will lead us and guide us and let us do what is pleasing in your sight. In your name we do pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I have a roll call, please?
Chair Grant.
Here.
Vice Chair Katz.
Here.
Board Member Pincerga.
Here.
Board Member Ramos.
Present.
Board Member McCray.
Here.
All right. So I spoke additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda. I was informed that item 15C is no longer viable as the property is not on the tax deed sale. Furthermore, regarding item 7C, it is not confirmed with everything signed in writing, so I would like to put it on to a new business item for our discussion.
What item, Mayor?
7C.
7C.
And so put that on to new business so that we can get appraised by the executive director regarding that item. Furthermore, I received a request from the petitioner of item 14B to have that removed. However, I would like to have a discussion with our attorney regarding that item. The tax incremental.
Absolutely.
All right. And so, is there anything other than the items?
Excuse me, what was the first one we pulled? Said we did not.
15C is no longer on the agenda.
Property is not available.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Legal, any updates?
Done.
All right, thank you. Informational items and disclosures by board members and CRA staff. Vice Chair Katz?
I met with Michael DeBose about some property he owns in between Woolbright and Ocean Avenue on Federal. That's it.
Board Member McCray?
Have no disclosures. That's it. Thank you.
Board Member Romulus?
Yes, I spoke briefly with Bonnie Miskell in regards to the item that is on the agenda. And I also met with Michael DeBose a few weeks ago regarding that same property. On another note, I do want to belatedly wish all the mothers and grandmothers, aunts, fake aunts, real aunts, all the mother figures in the room, a belated Happy Mother's Day. That is all.
Board Member Pincerga?
No disclosures.
All right. For my disclosure, I spoke with Michael DeBose as well regarding the properties along 4th Street. Moving on to announcements and
Chair,
awards.
before we move on,
Yes.
I'd like to say to Board Member Ramos, thank you for going to the Mother's Day program on Saturday where my mom's name was mentioned. Thank you.
My pleasure.
That's it.
All right. Moving on to announcements and awards, beginning with Rock the Plaza at Ocean Plaza recap.
Good evening, Board. Mercedes Coppin, Business Promotions and Events Manager. On Saturday, April 13th, we hosted the Rock the Plaza at Ocean Plaza. The event showcased the participating retail and service businesses located at the shopping plaza. We had 16 businesses who were featured on our business bingo card, which was intended to be a fun way to encourage event patrons to walk through the plaza and engage with the individual businesses. Of the 22 attendees that completed the feedback survey, we learned that 56% heard about the event on social media and 21% by word of mouth. 95% indicated that they plan to patronize a business within the plaza during the event. Following the event, we gauged feedback from the businesses through verbal conversations as well as a digital survey. Overall, the feedback was very positive. Most respondents indicated that they were very satisfied with the additional exposure brought to the plaza. And also several of the business owners indicated that they felt that they had collected viable leads for future marketing efforts and sales. Any questions? Okay, moving on to Rock the Marina and Lionfish Derby. That event will take place on June 1st at the Boynton Harbor Marina, which is located at 735 Casa Loma Boulevard. The event will feature live music from the band Spread the Dub, which is a reggae fusion band. There will also be cocktails and special offers from the businesses located at the marina, as well as an educational component to this event, which will discuss lionfish, marine life, and other sustainability efforts going on throughout the county. We'll have a number of nonprofits on site, including the Reef Institute, Sea Turtle Adventures, Under Blue Waters, and the City of Boynton Beach Sustainability Department. At this event, we will have no outside food vendors present, as we are encouraging all patrons to actually go to the restaurants that are located at the marina, which would be Two Georges, Banana Boat, and Marina Cafe. One of the things that we're doing as a business development effort is we are going to have a lionfish dip contest, which will feature different restaurants within the CRA area. As of right now, we have Driftwood, Hurricane Alley, and the Fish Depot signed up to prepare specialty lionfish dip. The owner of Driftwood will also be on site as our celebrity chef, and he'll be showcasing how to clean and prepare lionfish. As far as parking, we have secured the parking lot that's on the southeast corner of Boynton Beach Boulevard and Federal Highway for free parking, and there will also be paid parking available in the Marina Garage for $5. Now, the other side of the event is the Lionfish Derby. That will take place earlier in the day from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., and we are working with the Boynton Beach Dive Center and 4 of the dive charters that operate out of the Boynton Harbor Marina for that event. The registration fee is $60, and that includes a 3-tank dive. Registrations will be accepted through May 30th, and any interested participants can contact me directly or the Boynton Beach Dive Center. Any questions?
You know anybody who's signed, I guess any divers that we have signed up, do we have a estimated number?
Yeah, so we can accept 48 divers for the event, and we
Okay.
have approximately 23 as of last week.
Okay, perfect. And then one of the other things is I know that a couple of the businesses in the CRA are having kind of like, what is it called? Certain events, like an anniversary, or they're closing and moving out. What is the best way for them to announce their event? Can they just share that information with you and you will help spread that information?
Absolutely. Azim and Renee manage our social media, so if they have anything that they'd like us to share, we can certainly include it in our social media calendar.
All right, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Moving on to informational only. Any questions regarding? Seeing none, opening it up to public comments. Individual speakers will be limited to 3-minute presentations. Please state your name and address for the record. You'd like to line up behind the podium so we know how many speakers that we have.
Looks like I will be the only one. I'll try to entertain as if there were more. Andrew Padre, 800 North Road. I'm also a member of your Building Board of Adjustment and Appeals. Of course, all of you know why I'm here tonight, as you received the email a couple of days ago. I promise you this is relevant to CRA, as I know that all of you have to wear 2 hats. Tonight you are CRA members, although you are also the City Commission. My concern is this, is that I was approached about a week ago by Mercedes through the CRA to have a Rock the Plaza over at Casa Costa. Now, up until that point, I had only received 4 code violations for calendar year 2019. So I told her at the time, I said, yes, I would love to go ahead and do that. I think it's a great idea. Of course, fast forward until last week, and then I received an additional 10. When I reached out to code enforcement, I was told that I would receive an additional 4 this week. I wish that I had them here tonight. I did not. My concern with this is as follows. I don't want to go forward with a Rock the Plaza because the connotation is that, look, as a community, we're all working together. We all want to see the success of our small businesses, knowing full well, based upon my emails, that you guys have 3 or 4 different agencies as staff doing the exact opposite of what your motion should be as the CRA. Your CRA promotes small businesses and redevelopment and that sort of thing. My concern is this, is that you guys know quote, the torture that I've been through with the building department and then the fire department and then on top of it code enforcement, I can't in good conscience just say, look, let's rock the plaza and everybody gets credit as if we had that situation. Now, I think I have 3 minutes, so I'm going to spend the next maybe minute going over my situation. Last time I was here, McCrae said, Colin, city manager, reach out to Mr. Padre, let's go ahead and have a meeting. I remember the meeting very, very precisely. Colin did show up at the plaza. I introduced myself as the owner. I said, hopefully we could put this behind us. We all want growth in the downtown core. He said, well, unfortunately, I'm going to be far more harsh than the building official and code enforcement. So for the next 2 hours, he proceeded to point out every single flaw that we had, and I think that predicated the 10 code violations. So unfortunately, my little meeting with him backfired. I will say this. I heard that you guys are working with staff to come up with some sort of modification to awning signage and window signage, and that is a step in the right direction. I would also ask, maybe you guys, when you change hats from the CRA back to the City Commission, that you guys investigate giving everything a variance for the next 6 months, because there's a couple of things that I just can't solve, like the wood underneath the awning. When Natasha is sitting there with Colin, and Colin's like, you can't have combustible material, and I point over at the propane tanks over at Ace Hardware and the Christmas trees, it seems a little bit biased, if you will. The AC units are not as easy to cover up as you guys may think, and so I'm not sure if you took the time to go through some of the code violations, but we need a blanket variance. The place looks phenomenal the way it is. I can't have this under my shoulders for the next 2 weeks because I got to meet with the special magistrate. And the way that the game will end up being played is that if I get fined, I have no choice but to pass it on to the tenants. The tenants can't absorb the financial loss that I can absorb. You will run them out of business with this sort of thing. So I'm just asking for your consideration and just wanted to mention I would love to do the Rock the Plaza, but I want to do so in good conscience. I want to know that we can actually make a living there and stay full instead of being empty 6 months from now. Thank you.
Before the board says anything, just to be clear, any issues with the city council regarding code enforcement issues are not before you sitting as a CRA board, and I would recommend that you not address those comments sitting as the CRA board.
I mean, the only comment that I guess I could say is that could we create certain funds available for businesses that do have code compliance violations to help them?
Yes, Board Chair, we currently have our commercial grants that would be available for those and any other improvements that they would like to make.
So, okay. So if that happens, we'll see if we can use any of the current, exterior, interior facade grants that we have. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, public comments is now closed. Moving on to CRA projects in progress.
Yes, Board Chair and Board members, the item before you, 10A, is the CRA.
Excuse me, if you'd like to speak in the audience, please step outside. It definitely echoes here, so we can hear that you're talking. I'm sorry, Michael.
That's okay. No, I'm sorry. It's fine.
Do you have a public comment?
Yes, it's actually the same subject, if I may, just to add.
Is it all right with the board if we allow the public? Yes, please state your name and address for the record.
So my name is Natasha Koblova. I'm the owner of Pizzeria del Samore in Casa Costa. And as the business owner, I'm hoping there will be some kind of favorable solution. Because to be honest, when I receive one more citation and when I look from all these numbers, my mind at this point, I cannot even think about citations because my main problem is how to bring people in. It's summer, we have issues with parking, we don't have enough visibility, and just all snowbirds are gone. It's my first year in business, we just celebrated first anniversary. So to be honest, my 99% of my problem is how to bring people in, how to keep up with the business. And when I have the citations, I don't know, it's for new businesses sometimes too much. And again, we don't do anything, without asking our landlord. But at the same time, I think, even like with the sign, for example, when we installed the sign by code, we had to put it so high that nobody can see it unless we cut all the palm trees. But there is the actual logical place there on the building where everybody could see it, but by code, we are not authorized to put it there. So I was trying to be creative and put all kinds of, these signs on the windows, which I would happily remove tomorrow if we were allowed to put sign where people can see us. So we are not trying to break the rules, we are trying to make it work for business. So I would really appreciate if there will be some kind of wonderful solution for everyone.
Thank you.
And the wood, of course, the wood. I don't know, we have a wood-fired oven. We don't have gas, we don't have electricity. If we are not allowed to have wood, I can close it tomorrow. We don't have, that's it.
Thank you. And, we can't make any comments regarding that as this board. Hopefully, you'll come to the City Commission meeting next Tuesday, and we can have a discussion there.
Okay, so, well, thank you.
Hi, my name is Michael Watts. I'm one of the co-owners at Novice Escape Room at 458 here within the CRA range. And one of the main drawing factors for us into the CRA as a business and as a small business with my business partner was the growing downtown area and the support that the CRA has been able to provide to us thus far. So we thank you for that. But we have found it very discouraging recently to find out about these code violations and the things that are ultimately, just to reiterate what Mr. Padre said, that would ultimately put us out of business and not allow us to be able to absorb those costs. So we are hoping to work with the city and the CRA, and we do understand it is a city code violation issue, but we have worked very closely with the CRA and making sure to try and promote our business the best we can and get the word out for the community. Being a new business within the first year, we know that new small businesses do struggle to try and work with advertising, to try and get the word out to the community and try and make the best strides they can in those first 12 months. And with us being in those first 12 months, we see that it's important for us to be able to do some of these advertising efforts and different pieces to make us aware in the community. And we sure hope that we can work together with both the CRA and the City Commission to find a way moving forward. And if we have to choose between, Rock the Plaza and the no code violations, we would definitely choose the no code violations, unfortunately. But we're hoping we can find a balance between both. Thank you.
Corey Sturkey. I am the owner of Cure Barbershop in the Casa Cosa condo. For me personally, the violations is just one thing that's just added on to my already struggle that I have. I don't have people that I can call to kind of bail me out of these different situations. The Rock the Plaza thing it sounds good, but if I can't have stuff on my windows, like that is for the most part, my main source of advertisement at the moment, that as far as, and also social media. Me getting those violations was, for me on my half, was extremely discouraging because, like I said, I don't have people that I can reach out to. And the Rock the Plaza, it sounds good, but after that's done, I'm still going to have to deal with this issue of my signage on my windows. So me personally, that's my biggest complaint. I don't really not concerned about the Rock the Plaza. I just need to make sure that my business is able to be seen at all times as much as possible, because everything I'm doing is for, like, my family depends on me, and the small things like this and these violations definitely play a huge factor in me. Like, I can't just hire somebody off the street and pay them hourly. I have to find barbers. I have to find barbers that I trust that's going to bring money in, so at any point in time I could have a barber decide they want to leave. So I need as much advertisement as I possibly can. So thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, good evening, Urban Sinez, community organizer in Boynton Strong. Just want to make a comment to the, attended the community input meeting for the MLK corridor, the input meeting for that, and just wanted to speak to it a little bit. With the plans that are currently as they are, just feel like it's lacking a lot of human development, a lot of community wealth, like it's cool, it's buildings and stuff like that, but there's really nothing that speaks to any kind of training, any type of enhancing of the people in the area, any type of anything that really develops people. It's just a bunch of buildings and a bunch of stuff like that. So I wanted to speak to that because I think that's really important. I also was a little bit discouraged. Like I brought up a CBA and folks was acting like they've never heard of it, a community benefits agreement, and not just lip service, but an actual living document between community stakeholders, community and a developer saying how we want things to go. It's been done in other places. I know it's something that's real. I also was discouraged by just a comment that Michael Simon made about, he asked, what are we looking for? I said, equity. And he kind of was like, well, you know, equity means putting something in. Are you guys willing to put something in? I guess he meant financially. But I just want to remind Michael Simon and just the CRA board that you wouldn't even qualify for funds, period, without a District 2, without blight. You wouldn't have enough blight to get the funds that you get. So don't forget where your money comes from. And that's just the first way that we put into this, along with TIF dollars and other things. So it's just really important to, you know, I'm not coming here to attack, but I don't know what working together looks like, but we want development. Everyone wants development. Everybody wants growth. But to have 240 plus units and not even one being able to be sold, what are we supposed to be renters for the next 50 years? Everybody's just renters. Like, I don't know. Maybe developers aren't thinking like that. Maybe that's just a conversation that needs to be had. But how do we create wealth? How do we have 240 plus units and nothing can be purchased? It's even the developer making the comment that, yeah, we're going to be managing it for 50 years. You know how many of his grandchildren are going to be sent to Ivy League schools by that time? You know what I mean? Or grandchildren. That's a lot of generational wealth that we're contributing to. So I think that it's like we need to find ways to build wealth in the areas that are here, not just build buildings and make it look nice. There's got to be some human elements to some of these plans. So I just want to put that out there. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Boynton Strong, 407 Northeast 17th Avenue, apartment 101. Well, I have some concerns concerning Martin Luther King Boulevard with the signs y'all have up there. You have no trucks allowed. You have 1 hour parking, and then you have no loading. Then I went on, somebody said, well, go over here on Ocean Avenue and look and see how the signs look over there. Because since they said this is Commercial Avenue on Martin Luther King. They're trying to save the spots for people who trying to get in and out the store, the beauty parlor. And I went on Ocean Avenue, and I went over there and I seen 4 signs. And they were from 8 to 5 parking. So that means to tell me they got 9 hours parking on Ocean with the same amount of commercial businesses on Martin Luther King. And I'm like, and then the mayor just told me, off record, that he has no clue of that. And this is our mayor of our city. He don't know they're putting signs up out here? Is y'all serious? And then I got another thing to talk about my district, to my commissioner, who we never seem to see until we come here. Why isn't it we having no community meetings like everybody else have, like Romulus and them have with her group, like Katz have with his people in their district? Why we can't never see our commissioner at Carolyn Sims Center? Why did that? 225 Northwest 12th Avenue, and you live on 3rd Avenue. Why? Why we can't never see you in none of these meetings? And I got one more thing for Mike Simon, the head of CRA. This man came to Boynton. They came to Boynton 25 years ago. I was maybe 15. And I'm not saying our businesses was in the greatest shape, but they took them down. They said it was slum, blight, whatever they called it. They said, we're going to take it down and we're going to build it back up. I've been waiting I've been still waiting going on 26 years. And y'all gonna come give us some apartments to where 268 apartments, and you can't even say, well, we'll let y'all see if you can own them. We're gonna see some low income rent to own. Come on, man, y'all gonna squeeze us for 50 years? These people told us 50 years they're gonna be here. They said we don't sell our apartment to 50 years. I say, golly, you ain't that old. He ain't sold no apartments yet. What's going on, man? And Stephen, Mayor, you the mayor of our city, man. Can we get some help from you?
Yes.
Please, man. Thank you.
Good evening, Minister Bernard Wright, 713 Northwest 2nd Street, Bernard Wright Ministries, Robert E. Wells Foundation, and Real Talk Radio. There have been some great complaints tonight and legitimate. I think y'all will take it in consideration, even with the developers in respect to perhaps some of those rentals being for sale. But we're not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. We want to keep it moving and get some redevelopment, but we want to be, no doubt, included in it all. I just want to commend our department today, our public labor today, because we got garbage trucks coming in, the different type of garbage truck. We got some I think you need to take out of use, because the maggots and the stink of the liquids that it just make a trail coming down, and when any brothers, no doubt, in our district and leave garbage down, don't take and pick it up, they got gloves on, but at any rate, I don't want the responsibility to be just on them. It's a bad truck, and it's not the ones that come in and, you know, without the human labor, it's manual labor with these. They're like old time with the old iron garbage cans, but at any rate, they did come and sweep it up and got rid of that smell. I want to thank and commend them for that. No doubt about this. I know y'all heard some legitimate complaints. Now, this Carolyn Center situation where these children are being locked out during the summertime, we haven't forgot about that. This is the third filing into the federal courts, and I had to do it. I don't have nothing personal against none of you all. I love you all. To God be the glory, knowing what love is. It's God. That means gentleness, patience, kindness, and all of that.
We have some
by
comments.
the grace of God. But I just want to say this.
Mr. Orr, if you have any comments, you need to step outside. We hear you.
Okay, but by the grace of God, about to lose my train of thought, but by the grace of God, it has nothing to do with y'all personally, but it's about these children and about this being grandfathered in. Wilson Center, the Calvin Center, and in the summertime you run a summer camp at a charge, but the doors are closed to the rest of the public. It's not just about a child, but about me too. I should be able to go out there during the summertime. So now we're back in the court again, and y'all will be delivered a copy thereof, have been filed. I got mine today. And we want to know, you don't have to go through this, but I'm going in a jury trial. And I believe I'm going to win it by the grace of God. But if y'all come on and let's get this thing together, y'all going to run all the summer camps you want. Just don't lock the doors from these children who are subjected to the elements of the street, meaning mischief, juveniles, sinners, jailhouses, and prisons, because they have nowhere positive to go. We can't have that. It's been too many generations with that center being there for us for positive growth and development. And we want to have something to do about it. I would take this out of the court. But if y'all wanted to stay in and want to see it to its full, this is the third time it's been in there. I'm a very consistent man. Y'all know this. By the grace of God, let's get down and let's do what we need to do, man, on a prophetic spirit of better for Boynton, and let's do what's right for the people. To God be the glory. So I just want y'all to know that, you know, and publicly. So, you know, I'm not doing nothing behind the curtains. This is a federal court issue.
All right. Thank you for that. And before you leave, regarding the, you know, with the Carolyn Sim Centers, there is certain liability issues when you're dealing with minors.
I understand all that, and we have nothing to do with that. You don't come in and violate our constitutional rights on a liability letter with children and family on some children. And you know, I have documentary proof that 85% of are white and they're from the suburbs. So guess what? You won't win this case. So if you want to come to the table with me, man, you know I'm open for it. I love you, man. But guess what? If we want to let the court handle that, not that anything else, to God be the glory. We're going to get issues resolved because we have a constitutional right to petition the government for a redress of grievance, and that's on anything.
I have a question not regarding this.
You want to say something, man?
Yeah, just regarding.
This is a serious issue about these children.
No, not the summer camp thing.
Okay.
It's just regarding the trash can issue.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us what street did you
This
reach
was
out
on
to our
12th
Public Works
Avenue.
Department?
It was on
What truck
Northwest
that was?
12th Avenue, yes, and 3rd Street.
This was today?
Yes, they did a great job in coming back after we complained about it. I called right.
Northwest 12th?
12th, yes.
Okay, thank you.
But this is not the first time, and it occasionally where this particular truck in certain areas of District 2, it does a bad job. You got other trucks over where I am on 713, a whole different truck.
Thank you, Reverend.
Yes, thank you.
Last call for any public comments. All right, seeing none, public comments is now closed. We'll move on to item 10A, CRA Economic Development Update.
Thank you, Board Chair and Board members.
More into the microphone, Michael.
Thank you, Board Chair and Board members. As we discussed, we've added the items of CRA projects in progress. Just to provide you updates, there's no action item with regard to them. Wanted to give you a status on the Economic Development Grant Program. We started out the year, you budgeted $554,356, and if approved this evening, you will have a total of $167,879 out in grants to local businesses. So that's the item there, unless you have any questions.
Next item is the Sarah Sims Park construction update. As stated in the staff write-up in the agenda item cover, as of May 3rd, the pavilions have been completed. As you can see, the last remaining pavilion, the roof, they will work on the roof the first part of this month. The restroom, the walls are up. They're looking to put the trusses and the roof deck, as well as site lighting security. The light poles should arrive anytime, as well as the sanitary sewer tie-in along MLK. The parking lot from MLK is being worked on. The base is complete. There's subgrade, and then again, as far as the asphalt path, that's part of the work that will be that has been completed. The next item will be irrigation. They're starting the installation now, as well as the decorative fencing that will be coming up. We anticipate the roof work for the restroom will be completed around the first part of June. As you can see from the drawings, from the photos above, the asphalt path all along the park has been completed, and it's a meandering path, so it'll be a nice vista for the users. I'm here for questions if there are any.
Can you state your name for the record?
Yes, this is Twee Shutt, for the record.
And so we do plan on having this expected to open before the end of the summer?
I believe the target date was June, and we're hoping to have that.
Okay.
I know that the city has been looking to also, as part of the construction, put in the amphitheater. That was not part of the original scope. There was no money in the budget. However, they're going to try to take advantage of it, and it'll be coming to you all for approval for the additional funds. They wanted to make sure that that can be done, because it'll probably be cheaper done now. It was one of the items that came up as part of the community input meeting back in 2017. So probably either next month or in July, we'll have the city staff come with the estimated costs. It'll be the reuse of the amphitheater that was on the city's property on Ocean. And it'll be reassembled.
Does that include the bathrooms that were there as well?
As part of this project, the water and electrical connection has been prepared as part of the Sarah Sims improvement, so that it can be tied in. Now, the bathrooms, I don't know if they have the bathroom adjacent to the amphitheater, because you have the new bathroom buildings there. But there'll be some water, and there'll be design as part of that. But the water and sewer will be hooked up as part of this particular phase. So we knew ahead to do that, to prepare it.
Because I remember there being bathrooms in the amphitheater on the back end.
I don't think
unless I'm mistaken. Okay. Board Member McCray, my apologies.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I don't think that the bathrooms will be brought over there. The amphitheater is the other part that we're doing. And I think the realistic date that we're looking at is in July. It's not really June, so I don't want to get us hopes up for June. It's more just like July.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, Board Member Romulus.
Are we considering doing any naming rights in terms of getting people to donate benches or chairs in this project?
The benches are part of the improvement as part of, but
right, but perhaps
I don't
like
know,
a plaque, like from family of or something like that.
Right.
Are we doing anything like that?
I could report that back to you next month. I have to coordinate with the city and see what they're doing with their naming rights, if there's any policies or anything like that that's established by the city. But we can certainly look into that as well.
Yes, Board Member McCray.
Thank you. In regards to that tweet and also the board member Romulus, we have not went as far as saying, that we are going to be doing planks. I'm just saying, I understand what you're saying, but we have not gotten to that point yet.
All right. And, yeah, I think that's more of a discussion for the city board. Any other comments? Seeing none, moving on to item C, the Historic Women's Clubs of Boynton Beach Roof Replacement Project.
Yes, this project is officially closed. The last pay application for the remaining $13,000 has been dispersed, actually has been approved, so the check will be written and dispersed. To date, we've received the additional funds, the remaining funds from the Solid Waste Authority, $36,775. $36,775 from the Solid Waste Authority to go towards, it's a reimbursement towards the re-roofing project. And I believe the total cost of the project is $310,584.33, which is a $9,415 savings from what was originally contracted by the board. So, so the next phase with that will be to repaint the building and fix any of the windows. Our original thought with staff was to dry the building in to prevent any water penetration, and then to begin to start leasing the building out while we wait and apply for a state grant, which you'll see in the next one of the items that you'll be acting on tonight. And hopefully those will be the major renovation, which includes upgrading bathrooms, also repairing the windows structurally, and many other items that are needed.
We're also talking about the elevator as well.
I think the elevator is okay,
Okay.
right now. We did some work on that already, but there'll be plumbing, HVAC, lighting, things like that that will make the building more competitive with the other venues in the local area, and that's what we really would like to do.
Okay. And so, yeah, and so have we had a discussion about the aspect of it being a venue? Because I've been brought up with the request to make it more of a museum/venue.
The item that you'll be looking at is the matching fund that's coming up on 15B, maybe some of the renovation, the scope of the renovation, you can give us some input on as well.
Okay.
As we prepare for the grant, because there is a separate section that you could apply for rehabilitation, and we can include as part of the activity when we renovate the property, so we can write that into the grant as well.
So yeah, I remember when we had Warren Adams on the city staff, he would be applying for these state grants for the historical aspect. And so is that part of?
I think what you may be referring to is the programming aspects. There is a separate grant from the cultural fairs that deals with programming.
Okay.
This particular grant is only for the physical facility for the historic preservation component, which is given by the Division of Historical Resources.
Okay.
But we can certainly look in the future. The two grants cycle coincide with one another.
Okay.
So what we would like to do is have the building built and then start looking at programming and going after dollars for that.
Okay.
Board
Yeah.
Chair, over the next couple months, it sounds like there's some ideas that the board may have for programming, and we certainly want to get your input. It's your building.
Okay.
We'll make sure that that's something that we allow for as in the next future items as we get into budget too, because a lot of that will have to do with direction. It can be many things, as you know, so we'll make sure that you have an opportunity to do that.
All right.
We can build it into our description of what the eventual use will be.
Okay.
In this.
All right. Is there any other comments from the board? Seeing none. Item 10D, the Model Block Infill Housing Project, Northwest 11th Avenue Roadway Project closeout.
Again, this item is for the model block infill housing. It's the improvement to Northwest 11th, and it's again officially closed as of April 15th. The paperwork that we have is being worked on by the city. It's a larger project, therefore it's going to take a little longer for the city staff to get everything done. But they did give us a value. At closeout, the project is costs a total of $474,690.79, which is approximately $32,571 under the contracted budget amount that the City Commission approved. So with that, the next phase will be the construction of single-family home units on the lots on the south side of Northwest 11th Avenue. And from what I was told, Habitat for Humanity will be constructing these homes, and they're coordinating with the city. So this is the 9 properties that the CRA had bought and transferred to the city so that the development of those single-family homes can be facilitated by just one government entity.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to consent agenda. Any items wish to be pulled? The only item that I had to pull is item H. I was looking at the backup for this, and it seems that it was under the Fly and Flow Fitness was part of the backup, not the 4R Products, Inc. And so I just want to double check that everything has been filed correctly for our products.
Board Chair, it looks like the application itself has been saved under the wrong item, but the lease information verifying the numbers is for the for real. As far as the agenda packet goes for the web, we'll make that adjustment. So if anybody goes to look at it from this day forward, we'll change that document out.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. May I have a motion to approve item 11H?
Motion to approve with the corrections.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion to pass the remainder of the consent agenda.
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item 14A, consideration and recommendations of the conceptual design and development terms for the CRA's MLK Jr. Boulevard redevelopment project.
Board Chair and board members, this item is coming back before you after having the opportunity to hold, at your direction, several additional community input meetings, in addition to your board meetings and the CRAB board meetings. From those meetings, we have as attachment comments and per the meeting, each date, how many folks attended, what comments were made. And that's, again, if you want to review those publicly, we can. If just so you know, they're in the backup as attachment 1 and attachment 2. With regard to the input summary, I want to make sure that those that feel that there were comments made that are pertinent to the development, most certainly. Some highlights in the bullets that taken from those meetings were making sure that there's adequate parking. The urgent care idea as a tenant came up at multiple meetings. They're also concerned about commercial activity both now and after the project is constructed, if a project is constructed. A lot of repeated concerns that another Boynton Terrace doesn't occur. So obviously a lot of questions of Centennial management regarding their management strategies, their practices, their long-term holds, what those projects look like after they've built them. Do they keep them maintained? We talked about security for the tenants and for the area pedestrians that would be going into the commercial projects, whether that be with cameras or additional fobs to get in and out for the residents. Again, the adequate parking, landscaping to be, as it would in any project, up to the standards of the city and meeting all the requirements of the land development regulations. I think the last consistent discussion was, as with our other projects and with Town Square, the opportunity to do community wealth building through the job fairs and the interaction of local qualified and licensed contractors as subcontractors or as general contractors to be able to bid on parts of the project during the construction phase, and also to work with the local residents to take positions in a more permanent way rather than the temporary construction jobs. The more permanent operations and management positions Centennial would make extra effort to work from the community to try to fill those positions. Having said that, the evening's discussion does center in some way with your direction, but we are bringing back the terms of a draft agreement that involve many of the aspects that have been presented to you over the course of the last several months. Centennial is here to present any additional information that you would like. I'm happy to go through the components of the contract. I'm happy to go through some of the issues that still need to be addressed by the board. Those would be more specifically associated with the commercial component. But there definitely are some items of action for the board, and those would be the terms of the agreement and the terms of the commercial component.
Yes.
Thank you. Before we start, I'd just like to say, I was like, I don't know what you call it tonight, but anyway, about this project. But the reason I did not meet with anybody on this project was that over 25 years ago, I met, even before I thought about being a commissioner, what was going on MLK Boulevard when we first started the CRA, which we continued to work. And I want to ask Michael, from the charrettes that we had those years and years back, I want to know how much of this is like overlapping. Did you all compare notes or anything? That's why I did not meet. I did not meet because I did not want anybody to think that I was trying to sway anybody in any way. But what we said that we wanted prior when we started, this is what I need to know, how much of this overlap.
Yes, sir. It's consistent with the previous vision for the MLK corridor, with the exception of additional ownership that would come from the eastern portions of the project, at least as it is presented to you this evening. But with regard to the desire to have the components that are being presented, it has been.
Thank you, because my take is that if anybody going to tell the story, I want them to tell the whole story if they will include my name. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm good.
And so I guess if you'd like to begin with any changes that you have made regarding the community input meetings.
Well, as far as all of the community input, the meetings, we feel that we're really trying to be able to come together as developers and builders in the community to be able to give this community exactly what they're looking for. I mean, we have to be able to stay within a certain parameter of obviously building code and restrictions, but we really do believe in what we're doing, and we hope that everyone we can't make everybody happy, but we certainly want to try to do our best to build a beautiful project.
I was looking for any specifics.
Well, I mean, as far as security, landscaping, I mean,
As far as the retail, what we did is we put a budget in for build out.
Okay.
For existing, and then we put in provisions too to make it where we could build a lot of smaller retail or have flexibility with it.
Okay.
And then we also we met with the CRA and we went over a lot of the comments. And one of the comments the CRA had to us, and we thought it was a good one too, was maybe if we're going to use local businesses, they won't be able to pay 20, like the rents they're charging now on US 1. So what we did is we put in our numbers and we pro forma'd the rents at $10 a foot, which really just basically covers utility expenses, operating expenses, and that would charge an average person, if they had a 1,000 square foot bay or 1,100, around $800 a month in rent.
Wow. Okay.
So, we factored in a lot of things like that for the local community after hearing them speak.
Okay. I appreciate that. Yes, Board Member McCray.
Since you're up here tonight and at the microphone, will you address about ownership? I'm just saying, was that ever discussed?
I'll get them to that.
Well, the ownership, that's going to be the next phase, and that's going to be on the individual lots. And we've put in townhouse developments in there for ownership.
Thank you.
And if you could state each of your names for the record.
Louis Sweezy, President, Centennial Management.
Elizabeth Roque, COO, Centennial Management.
I know you've been here so much, but yes, we do need it for the record. Thank you. All right. And so Yes, Board Member, or Vice Chair Katz, followed by Board Member Romulus.
The CRA owns kind of like a sliver of a plot across from the 4-story proposed residential, and then there's vacant parcels, a large section to the west and another smaller kind of sliver to the east, again, just across from the proposed 4-story residential. Have we as a CRA, or have you guys been able to contact those owners, since that's it's right there and it's vacant? Has there been any interest by those owners, if you've contacted them, to potentially involve themselves and sell their land or somehow get on board with this project?
We did back in the beginning, but we haven't recently, since we came to you. But we really contacted as many people as we could with the RFA to come into where we could find things that were reasonably priced.
Yeah, just note that there's always concern about displacement, obviously, of existing residents and acquiring properties where people live, and with these being vacant properties and the most adjacent properties to the project, whether it's through the CRA or through both parties reaching out to them, I just request that collaboratively we continue to approach them, because it would be nice, with the time frame we're working on, with the potential 9% and the sale and everything, we could potentially acquire these properties that are right there and enhance this project, from the get-go. So
That's absolutely something that we've considered, and we would want to work with you all to make sure that we do it how you expect it to be done.
Thank you.
Board Member Romulus.
Yes. In regards to the conversation about ownership and allowing for equity into the project, I understand that you are building a apartment complex, and there's really no opportunity for trying to either turn those into condos or do a rent-to-own type thing like some of the individuals were suggesting. But what I would like to ask for this board to consider and ask for the developer, if we were to move forward with doing a purchase and sale agreement with you, would be to entertain a joint venture agreement that would allow for you to basically partner with a local GC that then would also be able to have the ability to hire individuals within and around the community that perhaps maybe wouldn't necessarily fall under the same level of experience or whatever perhaps that you all are used to working with. In addition to that, this would allow for that equity to be put into the project. This would allow for that community input and individuals to work and perhaps have apprenticeships to learn different aspects of the construction trade and different things like that. So that's something that I'd like to ask for this board to consider, because we've seen in the past in Town Square and in other projects that we've done where we, encourage local hiring, we encourage, we do this and we do that, and we really see the numbers fall flat. We really don't see anything that shows that there's a true impact, positive impact from what the residents of our communities are really asking for over and over and over as we build more and more of these projects. And when you think about it, the ownership that used to be on MLK was mostly minority, was mostly African American, and now that is changing, and we have to be cognizant of the fact that we are causing that change for the good, but also we are changing the landscape of what this community will look like for decades to come. And so that's the solution that I've come up with in my mind of how we can actually still allow for that ownership, that equity, to be still, again, a part of the community, and they feel that feeling of they are playing a role in this development, and it's not just a product that's being built and they just have to grin and bear it whether they like it or not. So that's something that I'm asking for the board to consider, to really just think outside the box and find a different way of approaching these things, because we've tried and tried several times, and we put the good faith effort out there, and then we just kind of raise our shoulders when we say, oh well, we couldn't find any qualified vendors, or we couldn't find any qualified subcontractors, blah blah blah, and then we just move on and we keep it moving. But I'd like to ask us to think outside the box a little bit and see what we can do to find a local GC that would be willing to be a equity partner, and that could be something that Centennial could, negotiate out in terms of what percentage that partnership would be. But again, it would allow for that equity. It would allow for that real community input and buy-in instead of just let's have local job fairs, let's, hire locally and call it a day. And that's really the only source of return that there is to the community in addition to just building a product.
I guess I'll go next. The comments that I have is we saw the financing packages that you have available to us. We know that from the first iteration, there's so many different financing packages available. My main concern is that, let's say you get the 9% tax credit and you're able to give the CRA the $2 million. We don't necessarily, let's put it this way. I would not want the money back because we would want that money to be spent into the project. Because we only have one opportunity to build this, and so the way that I see it is that $2 million could be put into a parking garage so that the 3-story residential unit can go up to the 5 stories or the 4 or 5 stories so that you can have that extra density there for the commercial that you're also building. The other aspect of it is that I know on Congress Avenue that the store, the residences above, the retail over there are home ownership, and there are condo opportunities. And that's the thing, is that this would not be affordable, would not be subsidized a condo. It would be market rate condo. And so I don't necessarily know if you've ever looked into doing that, but for me, it's in the sense is that we as the CRA want the land that we've land banked for the 25 years to have some sort of ownership within the community, because as you told me this morning, you travel a lot to Boynton Beach. It's not necessarily your place of residence. And that's kind of where we want to have more people having that place of residence so that they can build equity. Because anybody who has a mortgage knows that half of that mortgage is principal to pay that they build that wealth with. And attending the Racial Equity Institutes, it's, compounded the effect for certain minorities who are unable to get that aspect of home ownership. And so you see with, on the north parcel, that aspect of trying to get home ownership there on a condo basis, not necessarily affordable, but market rate. And that, as the board member Romulo was saying, that joint venture, so that we are able to be that partner and provide tax incremental funding if the units do not sell. But
Mayor, with your CRA and what you currently own, you have large configurations in 2 locations, and that's right here where we're proposing to do the multifamily development. Then you own a lot of smaller lots that doesn't have any economic of scale to it.
Yes.
That would make a wonderful townhouse development. And it's something, we do some surtax stuff with the city of Miami and Dade County, where we buy lots and we do smaller residential developments too. I mentor a lot of smaller minority developers too with it. I help them with it. I finance even some of them. I walk them through the process too. I don't mind doing something like that with a contractor on the residential component, but on the bigger development you're mentioning here, particularly with the construction, it's a $19 million construction contract. That's a lot of financial risk. There's a $30 million note that you have to sign with the bank and you have to sign personal on. That's pretty scary to get in bed with somebody you don't know who just met.
yeah.
And at this late part of the day, it's kind of scary here, but I'd be more than happy to work. Matter of fact, make me feel real good to work with somebody and on these other smaller developments and watch them grow and to become me. I'm getting to be an older man anyway. So
That's the other aspect of it is that not necessarily the contractor, but the subcontractors.
I don't mind it either way if it's something smaller that can be managed.
I understand. Well, your GC would hopefully get the local subcontractors.
Of course.
And that's kind of, where I look at it is that, let's say you get the 9% tax credit, You know, I do believe that you're looking to do some 55 age-restricted units?
No,
No?
no.
Okay. And so you know, my whole thing is that, you know, on the southern parcel, you only have 127 parking spaces. If you had more parking spaces, would you be able to?
Happy if we have excess funds to build a parking structure.
And so that's kind of where I'd ask the CRA board, is that whether it's through the tax incremental funding or, you know, using the Florida Housing Financing Corporation to help with those funds so that we can get the density there, is something that I'm looking for, you know, in that purchase agreement, that we can make it, you know, that decision when that happens. Yes.
Just whether you guys or the director, for my own kind of edification, if you submit a plan, say you submit this plan as presented to apply for the 9% and you receive it, what ability do we have at that point then to modify the project? So I understand, I fully agree with the chair that if we got the 9% for this project, and as a result we had this windfall of money we did not anticipate having absent the 9%, I agree it should be pumped back into this project in the MLK development, but can you legally then modify what you submitted to receive the credit?
Yeah, you can, you know, it's funny, it's a good question, Commissioner. Yes, you can in this regard, is that you have to, once you request your credits, which is part of the subsidies, you can't alter that request, but you could change the development and make it bigger and nicer, and the state would be more than happy. But they're not going to allow you to ask for or request any more money.
Right.
On this project, we're requesting the maximum allocation that the state gives anyway. So if the CRA wanted to contribute more, they're more than happy for that.
All right, so then that answers my question, whether it's to enhance the scope of what's proposed, which we could do because technically, I guess it's our money added on to the project, or to invest in the adjacent property development, the townhomes, et cetera, running to the east. Complete agreement, again, with the chair that if that money becomes available because of the tax credit, then it should be earmarked for enhancing the MLK project. And maybe, so what I'm about to ask or inquire about might be a broader conversation along the lines of what Board Member Romulus just asked. So we talk about community benefits agreements, and I'm trying to figure out, because I think the request from Board Member Ramos was for us to think outside the box or figure out a way to go beyond just holding a job fair and hoping people who are qualified come. But I don't, whether again this is to the director or you all or in some separate workshop setting, I don't know what else there is between a job fair where we try to attract qualified, skilled labor and attempting to put requirements on a developer to hire and train completely unskilled labor. There has to be something in the middle, because we do the job fair stuff, and my concern with all this talk is that if there are people who have the skills to perform these jobs in the community and we hold these job fair and somehow they never show up or don't express interest, I don't know how to overcome that hurdle. The other possibility is that there are not any significant quantity of individuals who are skilled laborers just sitting around in the community seeking a job. Otherwise, they would probably come to these job fairs. I don't believe that, personally, that we should be asking a developer to bring on completely unskilled labor and take them from kind of, unskilled to skilled during the course of a project, because I could foresee that complicating the project and potentially leading to any number of problems for the project. So again, this might be a rhetorical question for now, but if somebody has something in between, there is no skilled labor that we can identify and unskilled labor that has no qualifications whatsoever, there's got to be something that works somewhere. And I haven't heard anything but hold a job fair, find people, or pick people from the community with no skill applicable to the project and somehow magically make them skilled. again, it's rhetorical, but that's my concern, is we need to figure that out, and I haven't heard anything to that effect. I don't know if you guys have experience in that.
Let me answer that.
okay.
Before you speak, I'd like to speak. I just want to clarify exactly what I'm saying, and I love your question, Board Member Katz, because it's exactly where I wanted to bring this up, because it's not, right now, the way most of us think about it is the two dichotomies. It's either, you put out the job fair, nobody shows up, we build the project anyway, and we say, oh, hey, we tried, we failed, let's move on. Or the other way, which is, perhaps, they're out there, they're not coming, why aren't they coming? Why can't we figure out what we're doing that's making them not come? How do we solve that kind of gray area in between? And so this is where my proposal of creating this this joint venture agreement would be, where the project would be part owned by a licensed, bonded, experienced general contractor who's done work all across the county, the country, wherever they may be. So the experience is there. They would hire experienced workforce. What I'm saying, in addition, which would help kind of bridge this gap of the lack of knowledge, the no knowledge, is that they would have basically like an internship or apprenticeships for individuals in the area who would like to learn more, who would like to know more, perhaps who don't have that skill or that background, who would be assisting those skilled laborers, those skilled people who have the skills, plumbing and electric, whatever, and they would basically just be like on a kind of job shadow type thing. So it's not that they're hiring the unskilled laborers, they are hiring skilled laborers. So you were creating jobs, but at the same time we're teaching. So if you remember a conversation that we had a few months or a few weeks back or months back, I don't know how long it's been now, but we were even discussing how can we educate, how can we create some type of South Tech type thing where we can, create those jobs. This would be another opportunity to do that. As we're basically proposing that we would be giving away these parcels of land for $10, that would be our contribution into the infrastructure of creating said educational opportunity for our residents who perhaps, don't have the ability or don't have the means to go to a South Tech or to go to an ITT Tech or whatever it may be, Kaiser, Palm Beach State, whatever it may be, and this would be an opportunity. So a local general contractor would have the skill set available, but would also have the knowledge of the community and the relationships in the community to also be able to hire within the community people who are looking for those types of opportunities to kind of get that step up and that hand up basically in their career and their professions to hopefully maybe do something better with their lives. So that's what I'm proposing. It's a new way to it's not a new way, it's been done. I'm just saying it's a new way perhaps for us in Boynton Beach to do things, because we've seen what the outcomes of our previous efforts have been.
Board Member Ramos, you said has been done. Do you know where and who the contractor was?
I can get that information for us at our previous meeting, or I can email it over the next few weeks. But yes, it's not something that's a novel idea.
And if I may add, it would be good, and I would love to see the information, because for local governments, there's a lot more ability to do some of these things, and I think there is certainly a way to achieve what you're talking about, but there are legal constraints on the ability of the CRA to do some of these things that are not on other local governments. So anything that you provide to the mayor in that regard, I would love to see it as well, just to have support, because we had this conversation when we were talking about the job training, which is a frustration, I know, for the board who wants to do that, but the limitations on the law that govern this particular body that don't necessarily govern the city or the county or what have you, we need to be more creative, and there's always ways to do it, but we will make sure we pass anything that and I'm taking copious notes to make sure that I can go back and bring you support for whatever it is that we are able to work out.
And thank you for clarifying, and that's why, again, the onus wouldn't necessarily be on us at this point to provide the education. It would be on the partnering GC who has the experience and has the staff and personnel to provide that apprenticeship opportunity.
Board Member Pinsurga, then Vice Chair.
I just wanted to echo many of the sentiments that have been said so far about hiring locally and ensuring that we have an educated and skilled workforce. This is something that we can all get behind. From hearing from the comments, it seems to me that there are still a lot of unknowns. And I would like to recommend that we keep track of the people that show up to these job fairs, and we follow them over time and see what their concerns are and where they may drop off in that pipeline. We need to first collect some information to identify specifically what those challenges are, and I'm not sure whose responsibility that would be exactly, but perhaps it's something that the staff could look into. I'm looking at the document text, and it says notify and refer. Notify and refer to job training programs is wonderful, but I feel that's significantly inadequate. We do need to think about a longitudinal training pipeline, and I don't believe that's entirely the role of government. Perhaps this is a place where we can look into nonprofits and other community organizations, but first we need to identify where exactly people are dropping off. For example, perhaps they're qualified to enter into a South Tech program but don't have the money. Then perhaps we could look into other community organizations that can provide scholarships, for example. So we do need to first collect information and track people over time.
Yes, Vice Chair.
And I guess the last thing I'll add, per trying to either establish or incorporate apprenticeships to whether it's this project or any other project in the area, is that the local building trades unions, whether it's the electrical workers, the iron workers, have fully functioning apprentice programs where they take people unskilled for free, train them up, ensure that they end up getting qualified and get, highly paid construction jobs. So, I can certainly provide some of those contacts from our local iron workers and steel workers, et cetera, if we're inclined to leverage our investment in the project, and there's a way to marry what we're talking about with this project and the developers. That's an established and highly successful group that has exactly what we're talking about. They've attended our job fairs before to solicit members of the community who don't have these skills to join their apprenticeship programs. So that's something that I'd be more than happy to furnish to the director, because rather than either finding a GC or starting from scratch, the unions are essentially just groups of people who live and work in our communities, and they work to ensure that the people who are going to be getting those jobs or those trainings are as highly skilled as possible when they come out of the apprenticeships, and that they're guaranteed good money versus subcontracting sometimes, which dilutes down the compensation that they ultimately get. So again, the point of kind of piggybacking on Board Member Ramos' comments is that I'm fully on board with the concept we're trying to promote. I just, in 3+ years up here and looking out into the adjacent municipalities, I haven't seen people kind of hit the nail on the head yet. So I'm absent what exactly we can do, but I'm eager to try to sort that out, obviously, and support it.
All right. Yes, Board Member Romulus.
And thank you for your support on that, Board Member Katz and Pensurga and Mayor or Chair. One more thing I'd like to mention in regards to the comment by the Chair is, I love that idea. I really do believe that if we can maximize this project, I would be 150,000% behind that. I think it's important that we do this the first time and we do it right. So if we have the opportunity to expand the density and expand the possibility, not only for potential tenants, but also perhaps, as the chair was mentioning, allowing for some potential ownership units. Again, that's kind of like the ideal situation for me. So I'm willing to just think outside the box and entertain all possible options.
Yes, Board Member McCray.
Thank you, Chair. In regards to contractors, et cetera, and getting people that skill, when we started the Sarah Sims project, I'm going to go right back to something recent. We had job fairs. We had individuals to come in and to see if they wanted to do this. We fell behind with this project because we had no one coming to the table saying that they wanted to do this. We only had one Afro-American group that came forward to put their skills to work. And I'm just saying, I'm all in favor of it, but I don't want the project, when you start the project, to fall behind because we are not meeting what, you know, the board wants us to meet. I'm just saying. I want it to be where we ourselves, I'm just saying, can go ahead and move the project forward. I'm just saying we will not be at the point where we are with Sarah Sims, like with a behind date instead of finishing on time. If, you know, we had to put it out to the public saying, please come and bring us your skills, etc. That's what happened to us with the Sarah Sims project. So when you all start your project, I'm just saying I give anybody my blessing, but when I give them my blessings, I don't want anything like a hiccup that said, you know, we can't move this project forward. When we start, we need to keep it going.
There's one thing that I'd like to kind of speak to, and I'm going to fast forward a little bit. Now the community is built, and we hire local people. We provide jobs and training for leasing agents, for property managers, maintenance. We send them to compliance training classes. So corporately, internally with Centennial Management, we do that. So we will be providing local opportunities for people here in this community to be trained and to work and to learn a real skill. Just a little fast forward.
Yeah, and I agree with that, and thank you very much for the contribution that you'll be making. Again, my only reservation when it comes to that is, I mean, what's the potential of that? Maybe 10 to 15 jobs at best, at most, created, and then their jobs. Where's the equity? Where's the ability for the ownership? And so, not to downplay what you're saying, I absolutely know that you will be a great community partner with us once your development is built. I just want to make sure along the way, and then for the 50 years that you'll be there managing the project, that we have that buy-in, we have that input with the community, feeling like this wasn't just a project that was built and put on their doorstep, but they put their own blood, sweat, and tears and money into it as well to make it possible.
I think we probably have a real opportunity with all of the smaller lots to be able to try to do something like that. I think that that's something that we believe we really can participate in and make a difference. And I love property management, so one of the things is the skills that people learn when they come to work with us, they can take anywhere. It doesn't have to be for Centennial Management. Once you learn how to be a property manager, or you learn compliance, or you learn air conditioning or maintenance, that's something, once you work, you can go anywhere with that. And so we're real proud of the people that we've trained that have left and become area managers and regional managers. Sometimes they leave us because they move, but we do provide a skill for a lot of people.
Okay, I want to make sure I clarify something, because I feel like we're saying something and you are saying something, and we're not necessarily on the same page. I don't know if we're even in the same
I was just fast forwarding.
No, I know. Yeah. I just want to make sure we're clear in terms of what we're saying, because I want to make sure that we don't go forward trying to execute this purchase and sale development or agreement later on, and then it becomes an issue. What I'm saying, clearly on the record, is that I would like to see, in any way possible, how we can create a joint venture agreement that will allow for partnership and equity into your development project. Not your development project, because it's not yours yet, into this development project. In addition, I would also like to find a way so that we can build out this project at max density and potentially allow for ownership within this development, not just the individual outside lots, but this development itself. If those things are not something that you're willing to incorporate or you're not in agreement with, I'd like to have that stated now, because I don't want to move forward and have this mindset over here, but you have your mindset over there, and we're not even on the same page or necessarily in the same book about this conversation, and that wasn't explicitly stated.
In the RFA, and that was never mentioned in the RFA. We've had a lot of town meetings, and this is the 9th inning, and we hear about this now. Go ahead, Commissioner, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I didn't.
Yeah. Okay, and quite frankly, I'm hearing a general contractor, joint venture. It's a $19 million construction. I don't even know, nobody even knows who this mystery person would be. I'm scared.
Yeah.
I have to sign a $30 million personal guarantee on the development. I'm scared. I don't want to be in bed with people I don't know, I don't vet, I don't feel comfortable with. So I can't just say, I'm going to do this blindly and know that I don't know anything about anything. No, I can't do that, and I don't think any prudent individual could do that. I don't mind taking the smaller ones and taking baby steps and mentoring and training and bringing somebody from the local community in that area in Northwest or Northeast Boynton and training them to be a developer. I don't mind training them to be a contractor. I don't mind taking them and putting them in the construction company in some kind of management position, I mean. But I can't just say, I'm going to give a percentage of this deal to somebody, I don't even know who it is. I'm going to do a joint venture with them, and they could sue me in court and have me tied up and block my construction. I'm scared to death.
Vice Chair. Yes.
So just to clarify my position, and I think it might be on the same page as Commissioner Board Member McCray here, is with regards to what's presented to us right now, you know, I obviously want to see the effort made for local hires, but I'm in agreement with you that everything beyond this project, mostly going to be to the east, specifically townhouses or whatever ends up cropping up there. That's where I'm thinking, because like, as I agree with you, as you said, you know, the train is already pulled out of the station and about to completely leave the station, and I'm not going to do anything to slow this down. That was my comments, I think, 2 months ago when we kind of said a couple more input meetings and then we need to pull the trigger on this. So if I'm not misstating what Board Member McCray said, you know, I'm in favor of moving forward with what's presented, with the hope that a portion of this project, as it escalates and develops, we look into trying to incorporate more teeth in the local hire aspect. But I intend to do nothing to stop or slow down what's presented before us, just because I don't want this to fall through the cracks again, you know, based on history. So again, my position is what's presented before us and what's already been ironed out through negotiations, I'm fully in favor of. I'm just saying is a future, and it kind of was our conversation injected into this project, which is in the late stages. But I am speaking more to the near future and the rest of this project as it comes online. I'm just to bed your concerns, at least so you know that what's presented before us, you know, I'm completely in agreement with what has been discussed and negotiated to this point in time.
And therein lies the problem.
Excuse me.
May I speak?
No. I'm going to have my comments and then you can have yours.
Sure.
Thank you. So I just kind of want to sum up what I've been hearing, and so that we can you know, move forward with this, is that for the purchase and sale agreement, we already have certain terms there. You know, one of the questions that I had was, it says 10,000 of leasable commercial, but your plan had 2,500 of open space. I don't believe that's leasable. Is there another 2,500?
Now, we noticed that too. And I think I was going to mention that to Mike, that it should have been 8,500.
7,500?
Or you can make it commercial. The 2,500 open space is the more the community.
Sorry, Mr. Sweezy, you have to go. Mr. Lewis.
It was
Lewis, you have to be in front of the microphone when you're speaking.
Okay.
So if Elizabeth wants to go point it out, she can.
Vanna White.
Yeah.
This is our architect and who's did our site plan.
And then the 25 community center, we could make that retail.
And so that was one of the questions that I had, is that, you know, whether it's open space or commercial leasable, that we determine which one it is. You know, as we mentioned, ownership aspect. And one of the things that, you know, I've been thinking about is not necessarily is future ownership. Because as you know, with affordable housing, they have lower rents than the market rate. What the Palm Beach County Housing Authority does is that if they successfully go through that year or 2 years and are able to, you know, pay their lease and everything like that, there is that incentive because of the state's funding for down payment assistance. If they were able to were they able to have that income to get the FHA loan at 3.5%. And so that's something I just wanted to state. You know, the financing and the credits that are available, whether it be from the county, state, or federal governments, that those monies stay within the project for the best possible project. You know, the tax incremental funding that, you know, we max them out, because we don't necessarily, as myself, don't necessarily want your taxes. We want to make sure that we can use that funding for the best project in this community. And that's kind of that aspect of it is that if we're able to give those taxes back to you, that you're able to help the residents there with ownership aspects. And that the last one would be the community benefits agreement. It's not only jobs, but it's career training, and it may not necessarily be in construction or property management, because we do have the community caring center. We have Pathways to Prosperity, where there are two, and there's other, in the city of Boynton Beach, we have a incubator grant. And so it's trying to work with those local entities and then the county entities of CareerSource, making sure that you have a partnership with them for all the different types of retail establishments that may be coming in. And that's kind of, you know, what I'd like to put in writing, so that it's not just best efforts, but it specifically states what those best efforts include. You know, trying to find that local nonprofit for career education. And last, I'd like to state that I was at an event for the Milagro Center. Are you familiar with that over in Delray Beach? Okay, so that's something where it is in an affordable housing community. They have their own nonprofit. Mr. Sweezy, do you have a nonprofit organization?
Yeah, we have one ourselves. We're very active.
And so that's kind of where we'd like to have that aspect of it is that your nonprofit stays with the community to help the children, because I noticed that you make gifts available of education and technology to the children, that we create a community benefits agreement with your nonprofit, so a portion of funds gets delivered to that community, the children that are living in that community. And so that's what I think a community benefits agreement would be. So I would need a yes or no regarding that.
I think we probably need a little time to kind of think about it and figure it out and see what the impact is, but...
In concept, it's not all that bad. You know, we're not some, you know, I don't, you know, you're hitting me everything at once, and when I get in front of you, and it was never in the RFA, it was never here or there. Listen, we give back to the community. If you only, we have an impeccable reputation. Maybe not in Boynton, because we haven't had the chance to earn it yet. But usually I could tell you in Dade and in Broward, particularly in Dade, I don't have a bigger advocate on the commission than the minority commissioners up there. They all know that we're very active in the community, very supportive. We're not a hit and run looking to make a quick development and leave. I know we have a regional manager. She started off with us making $200 a week, and now she makes over $120,000 a year. And she grew up in a little one-bedroom unit where she had to go in the bedroom to turn on the wall unit. And she says now she has her big house, she has this, and that, and she owes all of that to really me or my company. And she said she'll love me forever. I don't know. I got her niece a job. She left us for a better paying job. We were paying her $55,000 a year, and she's just a girl who was in school. And she worked her way up as a leasing agent to that. And she just left and got a job for $65,000 with somebody else.
So
I'm happy for it.
Yeah, and the comments that I'm trying to say is that we have best efforts in the current contract. And so...
Hard to, but you're not telling me what you want. You're just saying you don't want best effort.
Well, no, I said I want what the definition of what...
best effort.
Yeah, and that is in
okay, I have bad ears.
Sorry, I'm sorry. And so with that, it's in the sense is that we don't want the best efforts to stop once the project is completed. And that's kind of what I'm trying to ask for, and that's something that you can work with our attorney to create that language. And so, as you just stated, you're willing to do that, and so we just want to have that stated.
It's easy to do. During the summers, we have breakfast and lunch programs for the children all summer long in some of our communities. We do back-to-school programs. So we care about our communities and the people in our communities, and we're definitely not a fly-by-night or hit-and-run.
And that's the thing, is that, like I said, we don't necessarily have those testimonials of your other communities and with the other elected officials, and so that's kind of where we don't necessarily want, to have all, to sell you all this land and then not get our investment protected with the future of the project after it's built. And so that's kind of what I'm just asking with the community benefits agreement, is for not to stop after the project is built, that it goes with the life of the project.
Understood.
All right, thank you. And Board Member Romulus?
Thank you, Chair. So, again, I'll say, the point that I'm trying to make in all of this is that we have to be willing to push the envelope. Board Member Katz, you mentioned that the train is nearing to leave the station. No, it's not. The train has not left the station. The train is still here. We do not need to rush or push forward this project as if there's no tomorrow, as if, it's going to fall apart tomorrow if we don't. For me, I see that this community that we have the honor and the privilege to serve has been through so much. If you consider redlining, if you've considered all the issues with segregation and everything else that this community has gone through, we as the officials who sit here and who govern, we cannot just move forward with anything that we want just because this is what we want. This community deserves a little bit more than that, and they have a little bit more dignity that they deserve. In terms of what you mentioned, Mr. Sweezy, in terms of you're scared and the $30 million personal liability that you have to put forward, and what I'm asking and what I'm proposing in terms of having a joint venture partner, your liability would go down. Perhaps it would be 25 million, perhaps it would be 20 million. But at the same time, whoever your partner would be, they would also be able to share in the upside of whatever you share when that property becomes fully established and is profitable. And that's what I'm asking in terms of what I believe this community is asking. They're asking to be a partner, an equity partner in this project, and not just a recipient of an affordable housing complex. If you and your staff members, in terms of Centennial, were paying attention, most of the comments that were being made at a lot of the community meetings was they were afraid of having this project become something like what used to be here a few decades back, that became a rundown project that nobody wanted to be a part of. And that was really because it was another product that was built, put into the community, and that was it. There was no buy-in, there was no community input, and there was really no opportunity for that pride and that ownership, which people will have if they feel like they are a part of this and they're not just being given some haphazard, and I'm not saying that your product is haphazard, but if they're feeling like they're just being given another product and they're not really getting any say-so or buying into it, you run the risk of potentially running down the same road. So what I'm asking, and what I'm asking for this board to consider, is the ability to really take a deep dive into this. We're not forcing you to get some unknown, unqualified partner that you have no idea with, who they are and what qualifications they bring to the table, and you're going to have to do something perhaps that you're not comfortable with, or you don't know who this is and what liability does that give you. That would never be our recommendation or our request to you, not at all. If anything, we're asking you to find and put out there, and this may work, this may not work. We may not find anybody who jumps on this idea, and if that's the case, then all of this is moot, and you get to move forward, and you get your project all by yourself, and you get to reap in both the benefits and whatever losses, if there are any. But at the same time, if there's an opportunity where we can do something to ensure that that equity is sown into this community, why not? And that is what I'm asking for this board to seriously take a look at and consider in this process, and to not just rush forward. This is not town square. We cannot give the same treatment in terms of the product that we're building and we're putting in this community as anywhere else in the city. This is a community that has been through a lot, and they deserve that ability to really have every single say-so as much as they possibly can in whatever we decide to ultimately build and produce in this area. So this is what I'm asking for my fellow board members to really take the opportunity to consider, and I'm asking you, Mr. Sweezy, to be a little bit more willing to think outside the box and not be so afraid, because as I've said before, this is something that has been done. I would ask for my board members to allow me to perhaps give an opportunity to come back and bring examples, bring people who can speak to this, that can really just educate the board and educate yourself, Mr. Sweezy, and the rest of your Centennial group, to see if this is something that we would really be able to potentially move forward on and do, because I do not think that it is a just random idea. It is something that could be done, and I think it would actually do something beneficial for this community.
Okay, Commissioner Baumness, can I ask one question? When you're saying for this community, are you saying the contractor and the person you want has to live in this community?
No.
Then what difference does it make?
And so I
If they
want
lived
to...
in Cleveland, Ohio, how does it
I want to start moving forward with this, and so...
I got a final comment, I promise, I swear.
And so I do want to open it up to public as well. So before you make your final comments, are you okay, is everyone okay if we open it up to the public audience to make their final things? Board Member McCray, you'd like to make...
Thank you. This is not a final comment, but this is just to state for the record in regards to the project that Board Member Romulus is talking about. That was a county housing project, and we did not have a buy-in. We did not have a say-so. When we noted anything, it was built. I just want the record to state that it was a county housing project.
Okay, thank you. So we'd like to open it up to the public, if you don't mind taking a seat. And we'll go from there, and then we'll have final comments from the board. And we'll ask for consensus, ask Tara for consensus for the notes that you've been making, if we can agree on things.
Minister Bernard Wright, 713 Northwest, 2nd Street of Bernard Wright Ministry, which is a 501c3 ministry inside of District 2. We're talking about the heart of Boynton Beach. Commissioner Romulus, I hear what you're saying, and I've not heard you go to the extent you've gone to on a community benefit agreement, and we've had many meetings even before you even took chair. And I've never heard you go to the extent you've gone now to Irvin Sinners, which is Haitian descent, but he's being paid to organize inside of our community with this business agreement. I don't have a problem with a community business agreement, but who is the community that you're talking about? Ms. Ramos, you don't live in District 2. You don't know too much about the history of this community that you're talking about, as though you have such authority of this community. I am this community. I mean, deeply rooted into this community, with a legacy in this community. So if you're going to speak about this neighborhood, please consult me, or Mr. Hay, someone. You understand? You're speaking, and I'm here. I'm a 501c3 ministry. Been dealing with children. I mean, in a great way. To God be the glory. And I'm saying, Bernard Wright Ministries is never mentioned. Pathway to Prosperity having to do with St. John Baptist Church always is. But what I'm saying is this. You right now have taken this authority over District 2, my commissioner right there. And we seem to want to keep this moving because we're not getting any older. I'm 66, ma'am. I've seen this community, you understand, when it was thriving. I've seen it right now where it's nothing and been dead too long. You want to hold this project back because of what Mr. Irvin is talking about and pushing with this community agreement, and no one seems to know anything about the effectiveness of it, even in the past. We're not trying to experiment on nothing but getting some resurrection, restoration, revitalization in the heart of Boynton Beach that will serve our people the best that we can. If you got some money and some equity, and I got a little bit, but we can put in, I'm sure that can be made available. But I'm talking about where you're going right now is about stopping a process. I'm not getting any younger. I got more years behind me than I have ahead of me. And I'm going to tell you this. I want to see that developed. I want to be able to come out and assemble again with my people to become a community again, because we're no longer a community, because we have had nowhere to come and assemble, to be together, to people to even get to know who their family is. I mean, come on, let's get real. And you are really going to, and you are adamant about it to an extent right now that I'm really grieving in my spirit that you almost want to stop the process. Thank you, Commissioner Katz. Seeing that, the train done left the station. It left the station a long time ago. There have been people that have died, sweated, gone to the grave trying to get something built on this street. Man, where are you really coming from? And you're not in this district. And you're really going, and you really have taken a baton that you're really not qualified and ready to take. I'm serious, and I'm on the real side. To God be the glory. Let's keep it moving. I mean, if you can come up with a community agreement where Minister Bernard Wright and Bernard Wright Ministries is involved in respect to this, yes, but we ain't gonna hold back, and we going through no experimental process, because it's about keeping it moving, and let's get this thing developed. Like Sarah Sim Park, to God be the glory. And you're doing a great job, and they moving it, baby. And that's where I'm at. Thank you.
And now, is there anyone else who would like to have their public comments regarding the MLK corridor? Thank you.
Woodrow Hay, 427 Northwest Fifth Avenue, Boynton Beach. Totally in agreement with Minister Bernard Wright and the McCray, our representative from District 2. I've been here for almost 50 years, and it's time. It's time. And I understand where Commissioner Ramos is coming from, but this has been held up for too long, and this is small in comparison to the overall picture of the benefits that this will bring to this community. And I think this commission is blessed to be at this juncture to make the right decision to benefit so many people. I've been looking forward to this ever since I've been here. And I'm just overjoyed as to what I heard from the business meeting, the community meetings that we've had, the input from the community, and everybody's ready. And I believe we are. Just take that under consideration, please, and make the right decision here. Thank you very much.
Last opportunity. Going once. Going twice, 3 times. All right, public comments is now closed. We will go through the board to make their final comments. Please note that if what everybody else says, you can't make your another comment, so no more rebuttals. Vice Chair, you stated you wanted to go first?
Yeah, thank you. So one, I'll put it out there out front. I'm voting for this project to move forward today. Again, we've had this robust discussion about a much more meaty version of community benefits agreement or local hire, but you know, that stuff in this level of detail needs to be included in the initial request of applicants when they submit to us. So with respect to tacking on dramatic changes and mandates to the project right now, I'm not in favor of that. I'm in favor of future editions of this project or other projects in the area. We need, if we're going to put, you must contract with this person, you must hire, local union labor, whatever those parameters are, it has to be there when they read the proposal request, and we're years past that. The last meeting we had, and I stated earlier, I was ready to vote 2 months ago, but in the interest of making sure nobody could claim we did not listen and have absolute input from the community, we agreed at that time to delay it 60 days. And in my articulating that delay at that time, it was with the definitive, I'm making a vote to move forward once people are confident that they've had their say. So that's where I'm at. I'm not interested personally in adding any additional conditions to what's already been requested in our request. And through negotiations, I think we need to move forward with this. And again, if you look at the landscape just to the west and then obviously a longer stretch to the east, there's ample opportunity for future portions of this MLK redevelopment corridor to incorporate these very, again, meaty versions of you must partner with, you must hire with, et cetera. So I'm voting to move this project forward. I'm happy to discuss the financial components to it that's kind of awaiting us, but I'm ready to vote yes on this.
Board Member Romulus.
Yeah, so just to close out, in essence, just want to make sure I clarify on where I was going with this. As almost all of our community input meetings that we went to, the number one, I would say the number one issue that was always brought up by most residents was, one, they don't want to see this become another rundown project, and two, what ability do they have to really be involved or to really play a key role in this. So that was what I was trying to basically solve. I was not trying to step on anybody's toes. I actually resent that comment from you, Mr. Wright, especially being that I'm an African-American woman. I feel like you're basically saying I'm not black enough because I don't live in District 2. So, okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Wright, I'm gonna ask you to leave because that was just not called for. If you don't mind.
So, in regards to
I have a right now. Come on, she called me out. I just said, oh, wait, come on, not going further now. No, I think I'm nothing here.
No more.
Yeah. Anyway, so my concern, regardless of where I live in this city, is always for the residents of this city, and I will continue to fight for that. And so when the main topic of discussion for this particular item in front of us has always been, how do we make sure we honor and we make sure we always continue to represent the community that this building or that these buildings are being built in, that was my priority as I brought up this topic of conversation. That being said, in reference to where we're going with this project, I'm absolutely 100% in favor of moving forward. I had no intention of trying to stall this or prevent it from going forward. I know we need to have something on MLK. It's absolutely vital that we have something on MLK. I just wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity to allow for the community to play a role in that project. If it is the will of the Commission, I would want, as we move forward, as Board Member Katz stated, that we do take a serious look into how we make sure we incorporate these things into the future. We have to make sure that as we build out more and more of these communities, we are not just building and, quote unquote, as the word would say, gentrifying these communities. We want to make sure that we are absolutely 100% allowing for individuals who live here to 50 years from now also still say, here now, my grandkids live here. So this is a priority for me, and it'll continue to be a priority for me. And regardless of what people may think, because of where I live in this city, I care about each and every single resident of this city. Thank you very much.
Serga, followed by Commissioner McCray.
As some of you know, I attended both community input meetings, and from what I gather, this is something that should have happened 10 years ago. And the community is largely in favor of this project, as I am. Their concerns were heard, they were addressed, and the vast majority of what they requested for has been incorporated into the proposed document in one way or another. So for this reason, and many more, I will be supporting this project. Like I said, this should have happened 10 years ago. There is no question of the need and the impact that will have in the community, and I look forward to a successful outcome. And may I also add that the concerns of hiring locally is not going to be unique to this project. It is a much larger concern. That is something that we will have to work together on with a community partner or partners. But I do not feel that this particular developer or any single one of a developer needs to be entirely burdened with the whole solution. It is something that we as a commission will actively work to solve, but we will move forward with this project.
Board Member McCray.
Thank you, Chair. In regards to the comment was just made by Board Member Penserger, whatever, Ty, I like to say it like that, okay. Anybody saying that this meeting should have been held 10 years ago, I'm going to correct the record. We held these meetings 25 years ago, okay? And I want to thank Commissioner Hay for standing up at this podium and making his statements, because he was one of those that held the torch and ran with it. He was at those meetings, and I'm just saying, and we know what this community wants. We know what we need. We've been saying it for over 25 years. We're at the table. Board Member Katz, I want to especially tell you thank you for your comments. I feel the same way that you feel about this project, and I don't want anything to hinder it. We should have been moving forward instead of moving forward tonight. Thank you.
And thank you again, Centennial, for working with us. I know this has been a long journey, and really appreciate it. I look forward to moving forward with you. And let me just give you some history on my concern is that when Family Dollar was built, the CRA at that time gave $1 million worth of land for the built of the convenience store. And then as soon as it was built, they sold it for $2.5 million and left the community. And so that's my concern, that the best efforts is with it, because whether we have the tax incremental funding or, with the sale, the ship, or the 9%, that we are working together for the future of Boynton Beach. And that's kind of where I'd like to have something in writing, and then I think now I'm going to ask Tara for her to get us to have consensus on the notes so that we have, so that she has the understanding of the board's will with the negotiations of the final contract.
For the ease of discussing this, and I'm not going to belabor any of the points because I know it's been a long discussion for the board, but we did pass out a summary of the larger agreement, which is of course a draft that has further cleanup to be done by legal for sure, and certain other terms that need to be cleaned out. But the two-page term sheet, I think, is probably the easiest thing for us to go through. And I'm going to summarize, and at any point that I don't capture the consensus, please interrupt me. I think that's probably going to be the easiest at this point. The project is described here. So preliminarily, we have the sale of the project for $10, and there's a closing date there. That's not terribly controversial. I'm going to skip right down to the project because I think that's of greatest concern. Under that, I have described the residential project and the commercial portion of the project and some of the other features. This is a high-level summary. The RFP will be incorporated. So I've made the correction to the commercial square feet that the mayor pointed out to be 7,500, I believe, is the number that is appropriate for that.
For the leasable?
For the leasable commercial space.
Okay.
We have an understanding of staff, and I'm looking at Mr. Simon if I say this wrong, to look into opportunities if additional CRA funding should become available as a result of awards of tax credits to increase the project size, number of units within the scope of the current code and zoning, because I think that may be an issue which Mr. Simon can address. But we understand the board's direction to be to ensure that money received can go back into the project to expand it to the extent necessary. So with that, I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on to local contractor, local jobs, and I will add just as an end, I think the bulk of our conversation has been about that, and I think staff understands its direction to take the language that is currently in the draft and to the extent practicable, make it more clear and incorporate some post-development benefits to ensure that the developer will be with the project over the course and lifetime of the project and not just through construction.
So I'd like to get the board to have consensus on that, is that, we've heard from the developer that he does plan on assisting it, and so it's work, for the, working with his nonprofit or other local nonprofits, but having the community benefits agreement that is after the construction is built.
And just from a legal perspective, I know we keep saying the word community benefits agreement. We need to make sure that that's the right vehicle. It may be that this is the community benefits agreement and there are terms that require certain things. So that is something that we will have to negotiate.
Yes.
And
So I'm going to let the developer speak, and then Board Member McCray.
Okay.
Yes.
We have a land use restriction agreement with the state, which we can't be in conflict with, and we have certain requirements with that will say, well, either we have to provide daycare or computer classes, so we have to make sure that whatever we have to abide by that land use restriction agreement.
Okay, so the situation is that if you don't get the 9%, or if it's fully tax incremental funding, so that, you have that agreement with us as well.
Funding,
Yeah.
then you need that. But like if it's sale or a combination thereof, the state really puts a lot of requirements on
Okay,
us, and they're very, what you call non-flexible.
So the situation is, would you mind putting that in the contract with us? What the state requires, because otherwise we don't know what you're doing.
In the mic so I can hear you.
I'm sorry. Each RFA comes out and they all require, each year it's something, like mostly it's the same, but there's minor changes. And they put it in their land use agreement, and you don't want to have a conflict there.
Oh, with us compared to with the state?
With the state housing agency, yeah, with the land use agreement we do with them.
So are you saying that if it was, if it's fully TIFRA, we would have to do a secondary land agreement? I mean, that's, I'm trying to say,
you see, I don't know if the state's, what you're asking me to do is answer questions that are very technical that I can't answer. I would need legal, like some,
okay.
I'd have to get with my attorney who does all my closings with the state. Let's just say it's sales funds with the state.
Yeah.
What you're gonna ask them to do is subordinate their mortgage for your land use agreement. I don't know if they're willing to do that or not. So I can't speak for the state. I might even have to go to the board and ask for a special exception. So you're asking me to be bound by things that I might not be able to control.
I mean,
I'm serious. I mean, you're looking at me like you don't.
Well, that's the thing, is that you're saying that if you receive funding from the state, there's going to be certain requirements of that funding. And so I'm saying, well, if you receive funding from us, what are the requirements that, for the, I'm just trying to think, how can I, make sure that, the land or any tax incremental funding, that there still benefits the community after it's built? If that's kind of what I'm trying to see. If there's no way for you to make a judgment call of whether to include that in the purchase and sale agreement now, then that's fine, we can move on. But that's what I was.
I would say that we can't make that commitment right now to put that in the purchase and sale agreement.
Okay, then that's fine. I just was trying to get the yes or no.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So it's no. So there's no post.
Okay. Still, I understand, and I believe that I was getting a nod when I was summarizing this from Centennial, that the direction from the board is to make clearer the requirements for job training and see if there is anything else that we are able to include between now and the time we bring the agreement back, that being one of the open items we will highlight when we bring it back to the extent practicable. I understand the will of the board is to move forward with clearer language, but not necessarily more requirements, just a better understanding of exactly what has already been proposed.
Okay.
The next section of the outline.
Hold, excuse me.
Yes.
Thank you. Before we go any further, this community benefit agreement that the chair keeps talking about, are we legally attaching this right now to this?
No.
No.
Thank you. Okay.
The next issue is funding options. I think there are 3 options there. If there are any questions or concerns about those, they are similar to the terms of the Ocean Breeze. And then the last 3 are termination. These provide for, if for some reason the project is not successful, an opportunity for the CRA to repurchase the properties that are purchased by Centennial for the contract price, so that we will retain that ownership for a future project if this one doesn't happen for one of the reasons outlined. So with
Does the board want to place a, you're right now, the term would be that the properties that Centennial buys to make the project lay out the way you have seen tonight in some way. If you decide not to do the project, you would be agreeing to buy back the properties that he's purchased. At this moment, you don't know what the cost of those properties are. I don't know how to put a cap on our funding, at this point, but I just want to make you aware that I think we want to make sure that whatever we agree to, we can afford. And I understand completely why Mr. Sweezy wants that in the contract, but I guess not knowing and having so many components of this and other projects, I just don't want, I don't want to have that exposure if for some reason, which I really believe there won't be, but it doesn't continue forward, and we have to do that.
I mean, the question is that will Centennial be willing to sell us the property for what they pay for it, so that we will know what the property they pay for, even though 2 years will have appreciated on that property. Because we know what they paid for the other land, our land would be, $10.
I think perhaps what we can do with staff and Centennial is bring back a proposal for a feasible cap that we think we would recommend to you if there is one, so that the financial liability is a known issue, which I think Mr. Simon is trying to say. He doesn't want them to buy up a ton of properties that we are then responsible for repurchasing if the project doesn't work. If that would put a liability on us, that would put us in a bad way in the future. So we will make a note to bring that back as an issue, a recommendation. Mr. Simon, is that appropriate?
Yes.
Yeah, and so that's, the situation is that I don't necessarily see that as an issue because, the CRA would need to land bank them anyway to get a project built, and so as long as it's a reasonable price, I know that it's going to be above market value, and so the definition of reasonable is different for a lot of different people, and so that's kind of where he's spending the outlay of money to buy these properties because we are selling him our property for not at market rate.
I'm not trying to cap him.
Correct.
So if he pays $5 million for those 4 sites, if it doesn't go forward, we owe him $5 million.
And so that's the sort of mentality that, yes, I think we will need to have a cap because we're not doing $5 million is unreasonable for us. So yes.
I think it just clicked.
Okay, so yes.
And then the reverter opportunity if there is a breach, and a right of first refusal to repurchase the property if anything else goes wrong. So there are 3 opportunities to get the property back. Mr. Simon, is there any other direction you need from the board?
I'd like to ask the board if they, in their desire to add units and add density, under the land development regulations, there'll only be so many additional units that you could add to this project, given the square footage and the land use and zoning, which at this time takes the 124 rental units to a total of 161 units, and that's the max for that site, for both sites. After meeting with the city today,
that doesn't include
24 units on the north side, which would be above the commercial, and there are changes that have to be made to have the project in line with the future land use. And then on the south side, we are proposing, or Mr. Sweezy Centennial is proposing 100 units, and the maximum that they could build there would be 137 units, and they would need approximately 215 parking spaces for 137 units, according to the code now. So if the effort is simply make your best effort to get a couple more units, great. If you had desired a certain amount, I wanted you to have the opportunity to include that.
So, thank you. And so that was kind of what I was saying, is that if they do obtain the 9%, we stated that we didn't want the $2 million for the land. We wanted that to be put back into the project, and it doesn't necessarily have to be residential. It could be commercial. And so that sense is that, we're looking at maybe a 2-story or 3-story commercial location, because that does definitely, it being a mixed-use project, changes the parking, where people who want a parking spot during the day, and especially if they are doing an apartment rental complex, they have that ability to control the parking. And so that's kind of what I'd also, I guess, like in the purchase and sale agreement, that whether they get, I guess, option 1 or option 2, that the board still has an opportunity to give them tax incremental funding to make the project better. And I guess is that, yeah, we got a head nod. So we still have that option in the contract for the purchase and sale, that we can make this project better if we do receive the financing in 19 or 20.
That is all I had. Did I miss anything?
Board Member Katz?
And just to make clear, the plan is to go with the CRAB recommendation of 1 round of 9%, and then sale, and then pure TIF agreement.
That's something that hasn't been, that's a consensus item, I suppose. Right now, it's presented to you as 2 shots.
Yeah.
CRAB is recommending 1 shot.
Okay.
So that would definitely be something that you'd want to have consensus on.
I'm definitely okay with the 2 shots because of the amount of time and effort that Centennial has put into this. It doesn't make sense that, to try to do this again next year.
You also have the option after the failure, if unsuccessful, as you read in the document, if they're unsuccessful this year and for some reason you decide we want to go forward, we don't want them to do a second application, you have that ability to do so. So you're in the driver's seat at that point. If he's unsuccessful in 2019 and you decide let's build it, then that's great. And if you decide you want to try again, then that's your choice to do.
I'd like to give it the unequivocal of the 2 years, mainly because, we don't know what he's paying for the land. And so to try to, budget that out doesn't make sense. And so I'd like to give them the 2 years so that we know exactly what's going to happen coming forward, and wait until we have that right to terminate until after the second round. Is that a consensus from the board for that?
Yeah,
Yes.
I just want to get clarification.
You're looking for.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the 9% because it cost us no money then.
Yeah.
It worked out well last time.
They do it so well.
Yeah. Okay. And so I guess, is there anything else, Tara?
I have nothing further if Mr. Simon has
And
nothing
so
further.
I'll ask the developer.
I want to clarify something.
Yes.
So it's, did you say it's 161 potential total units for the way our code?
At this point, if the developer could max out the units, it would go from 100 to 137 on the south side, the ability. And again, this image that you're seeing on the screen is not the one that you're approving. He's going to have to come back, and you're going to have to, obviously, get a site plan. There's a whole bunch of things that have to happen. And then on the commercial side, the 24 units that you're proposing would be the maximum there as well.
Yeah.
But that's going to take some approvals at the commission and the P&D level, but that's what's proposed. So I just want to I didn't want to have too high of expectation. I wanted to let you know where we're going into.
No, and that's the aspect of having that in the purchase and sale agreement, that if they're able to get the 9% or the 4%, that we were able to make it, determine with our finances regarding all the other projects. Because we have how much in the and so does this also include the money we have set away for the MLK corridor fund?
The funding for the MLK corridor, the 1.2 and the 1.6 that you have, is not specifically earmarked
for this project.
It is for this project, but it's multiple. It can be multiple projects. That would be one of the things I would be bringing back to you, because.
So in the current purchase and sale agreement, they're not asking for those funds.
They're asking for 1.2 as a government contribution. That number may or may not change because of the RFA from the state. It may be less or more. And then we want to have in reserve money to purchase the properties back if that were the case. That's only if you terminate the agreement. And then, as we talked about adding turf and TIF and tax revenue to the project, the commercial component that is on the cover, those few bullet points that we were discussing, we haven't really zeroed in as far as the board's desire to offset some of the costs of the commercial carry, you know, to lower the rents? Do you want to pay for the construction of that? We know that the 9% won't pay a penny for that commercial. And if that's the case, then who is responsible to build the commercial? I don't know if it's the developer or if it's the CRA.
CRA, yeah.
Then that would be funding I would use, and we would build it and we would turn the ownership over to the developer as the manager. We would, that's another aspect. Do you envision?
So thank you. So basically, the conversation is that, and I guess the developer knows this,
Depending on the
is
funding,
that the funding for the commercial aspect of it is not over, even though it isn't.
With the CRA board, and we went over it because the director was pretty adamant about this, and he said it was something the city wanted.
Yeah.
So what we did is we went back and we figured our rents at, you know, approximately $10 a foot, and with a minor build out. I mean, if they want an exotic restaurant with the grease traps and this and that, it might get a little out of hand. But with the smaller bays, the individual bathrooms and stuff, we figured all that in the number.
Okay.
As I mentioned earlier to you.
All right. So if it's, and so I guess, you know, it's part of that purchase.
Yeah, I think what the director came to us and said, what if we have a small person who could only afford $300 a month rent? You know?
I mean, no, I understand that if, you know, if things have to be commercially viable. My concern is that, you know, the funds that we have currently set aside for this project,
right,
you know, depending on what happens with the financing options, you know, where you're open to come back to the table to, I guess, make the project better. And so, you know, that's kind of where I don't know how to put that into the language.
I think the direction that we could use is if the board is comfortable with us talking about contributing funding towards the commercial, there's a variety of different ways that I think they have talked about, staff and Centennial. If the board is comfortable with that, we can work and make a proposal in the draft agreement to that end. And I think that's the kind of direction we could use tonight to bring that back, if the board's comfortable.
I mean, Louis, is that what you're...
You know, you have a lot of other land I'm going to be coming back to you with. I'm going to work in good faith with you. I mean, the more you put in there, the more...
I think this is helping you.
I mean, yeah, we want to give you more money to make the project better.
No, I want it, and I want it. And I understand what you mentioned earlier about the parking structure.
We could present those when it's determined, right? I mean,
So as long as the board is comfortable with
Yes.
staff making those discussions, we will bring that back.
Yes, we appreciate that for the commercial aspect of it.
Thank you.
Board, for the record, I'd also like to clarify the breakdown of the number that I gave you. The actual line item for the MLK project or corridor project is 1.6 million, and then there's 800,000 in your other redevelopment. That's where the 2.4 come up. So I just wanted to...
All right, thank you. And so that extra 400,000, you know, that's
I
something
knew there was
that
a
we
6
can
in
put
there.
into the purchase and sale agreement. Perfect. Okay. And do you need a motion?
No, I think we're comfortable with the direction that we've
All right.
received.
Moving on to item 14B. So consideration and discussion of notice of extension of tax incremental revenue funding agreement between Ocean One Boynton LLC and the Boynton Beach CRA. The reason why I wanted to speak to you, Tara, is regarding the rider that we had in the deed that if something wasn't done in such amount of time that the developer would build a park on that land.
Yeah, if the board would indulge me, I will be very quick. Regarding the Ocean One project, the board approved 2 separate agreements with 2 separate timelines. The first one is a purchase and sale agreement for a small piece of property that was to be combined with the property already owned by the developer to develop the project. As part of that purchase and sale agreement, there was a requirement, and there remains a requirement, for the purchaser to commence construction of the project by January 16th, 2020.
Okay.
Failing which, there is a requirement that they build a public plaza as specified in the purchase and sale agreement on that property by 2021. So they have a year to begin construction of that area. So that is the purchase and sale agreement. Separate and apart from the purchase and sale agreement is the tax increment revenue financing agreement. There is also a development timeline in that agreement, which also requires commencement of construction no later than January 2020. That agreement automatically terminates if construction has not been commenced by January 2020. So when and if, I understand that this item was asked to be taken off by the developer, so when and if they make that request to you, it will be at your discretion as to whether you would like to amend any of the terms of either of those agreements. At this time, pursuant to the letter we received, the only agreement they asked to amend was the tax increment revenue agreement, and not the purchase and sale, which has the plaza requirement you just referenced.
Okay. And so, okay, yes, Vice Chair.
So since, and correct me if I'm wrong based on what you just said, technically what's being asked to be extended doesn't expire until January.
Correct.
So I would request for myself, and if anybody else feels similar need, to not act on this for, I would personally request 60 days. I want to dig a lot deeper into this. The requested extension literally goes far and beyond the terms of all of our offices. There's, again, long-term implications for future commissioners, board members on the CRA for that. I'm requesting to table for 60 days so that for myself and anyone else who wants to can get extremely knowledgeable about the implications and also practical utilization of this land by the city or the CRA in the meantime if we do extend it. I know in the agreement that was just stated it dealt with the plaza and landscaping, things of that nature, but we have a lot going on downtown. Currently, that area is a vacant lot, kind of an abandoned parking lot, if you will, at this point now. Whether it's a plaza or parking, I think that the city or the CRA might be able to better utilize that land than just kind of creating an open space. So I'm requesting to table for 60 days to investigate all these avenues, especially because we really don't have to act on this until, hypothetically, till December, I suppose.
Yeah. Anyone else from the board? Yeah, my comments is the developer has been working with the CRA a lot and the city a lot, allowing us to park vehicles there. And so I know the developer has worked with us, both the CRA and the city. And so I just want to make sure that we're clear that, we do have that deadline in January of 2020 for the commencement of that park, or, what things that we plan on renegotiating, because it's not just the TIF agreement. We would like to do both things at once, because there's no point for us to extend the TIF if they don't get it done, and then we need to make them build a park. And so, pursuant to Vice Chair, we have a motion to table for 60 days. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Discussion.
Yes.
What are we tabling if they took the item off of the table?
No, they requested it to be taken off. We did not take it off, because if we take it off, we don't have this discussion. So we're just,
Not even table, they asked it to be removed
Right.
altogether.
but we didn't have to do that because we had a discussion.
All right.
So, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Tabled for the meeting in July? Okay. Item 14C, consideration of letter of interest submitted by Tri-Unity Smart Homes for the CRA-owned property located at Northeast 4th and 5th Avenue, aka the Cottage District. I haven't had too much to chance, but did they actually were able to pay for the water utilities that are needed for the Cottage District? this letter of intent?
Mention their letter for infrastructure.
Excuse me, sir. That was never mentioned in the offer, in the letter of interest.
Okay.
None of the infrastructure.
Okay, then I'm not inclined to accept this. Vice Chair?
Yeah, I'll agree with the statement you were making. I think we literally just recently said that because of infrastructure needs, that we were, we basically rejected and turned down the project we had been planning to build here because of the anticipated excessive costs of the infrastructure that we wanted to address first. So with respect to the applicant, I have no desire or intention to pick this back up before we pursue what we had intended to pursue when we kind of backed off of neighborhood renaissance, I think if I remember, was before us.
That's correct, Board Member.
I think under our policy, we'll need a motion to reject the letter of intent.
Or do we motion to accept and then deny?
I think it's just rejected is fine.
Okay, because sometimes you want an affirmative. So may I have...
to reject.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Moving on to item 14D, Neighborhood Officer Program Second Quarter Report, Fiscal Year 2018-19.
Accept.
Do I have a second? All right. Any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And I'd like to thank our neighborhood officers and sergeant for all that they do. We really appreciate it, and we hear it from the community, and we like to continue doing this. Item 14E, discussion and consideration for amendments to business development events vendor policy.
Second.
Can you give us a highlight of?
Yes, hello again, Board. So the proposed changes for the existing vendor policy before you would be to update the vendor policy so that it is in line with the business promotional events that were approved for fiscal year 2018-19, as well as replacing all references of special events with business promotional events. There is also proposed changes that would make the language of the document more concise by grouping together related content. An example of this would be to reformat the language that pertains to nonprofits or to the fees that are outlined within there so that everything is under one group heading. And also because the events department is solely focusing on business promotional events, to promote the businesses located within the CRA district, we would like to propose that the vendor pricing breakdown be updated to allow the vendor fee to be waived for businesses that can provide us with a valid business tax receipt that shows that they are located within the CRA area. And then the final change would allow for an exception to the prohibited merchandise section of the policy. So basically right now it states that no weapons are allowed at the events, which we would like to continue having that policy. However, we do want to have an exception for events like Pirate Fest, where the theming of the event would allow or would kind of encourage, and it goes in line with having authentic period weaponry, such as Damascus knives and non-firing replica guns. So those are the 4 primary changes that we're proposing for this vendor policy.
One of my concerns that I have is that putting the price at $0 for the CRA businesses, I'd like to have a deposit that is reimbursable so that we don't have businesses say that they're going to come and then not come, and we're out a vendor space.
Okay.
So I don't know. So basically it's in the senses that it's whatever we normally charge the vendor, however, it is 100% reimbursable for their attendance at the event.
If I could suggest,
Yeah.
I think what we were doing now was they were paying the cost, kind of the flat cost of what it would be for the tent and the lights as a regular vendor, and then another vendor out of town might pay slightly higher. I think if their deposit is the cost to us, so we don't lose that money,
Okay.
Then they're not having to pay even a higher amount, but we're covered on the cost if they walked, and if not, they get the money back. So I would lower instead of just the vendor fee in general, I would lower it to a cost, unless there's, do you have another suggestion?
Well, it's difficult to get the businesses, specifically for, not Rock the Plaza. Rock the Plaza is easy. It's at their storefront. It's in their plaza. But for events like Blarney Bash, for example, because we are transitioning that into a business development event, much like Pirate Fest, it is difficult to actually get the businesses to sign up. We contact them over and over and over again.
And CRA businesses?
The CRA district businesses. So I think it would be much more enticing to have them to have it at $0. I understand what you're saying. They do sign a contract that pretty much locks them in. Of course, at the last minute they could cancel, but generally the vendors that we work with, we are able to make last minute changes before the event where we're not going to be out of pocket any money for cancellations.
I mean, what was the cost for the?
The standard price, the at cost, is $116.
So let's put it at $50.
Okay.
That's reimbursable. Is unless the board has any other suggestions.
Refundable deposit.
I would simply just say if Mercedes is saying that it's hard just to even get them and she's suggesting a $0, perhaps it should stay at the $0, but we just charge a fee if they cancel.
Then it's hard to collect the fee, because how are we going to be we don't want to be in the business of collecting fees. That way, we're definitely reputable enough in the contract that we sign that if we don't give the $50 back, But with the other aspect of it is that I don't want to ask Tara to collect $50 because she costs more than $50 to collect the fee. So that's my and that's the other thing is that putting some sort of monetary deposit means that they're more likely to show and not cancel.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Our next item would
You need a motion to have that included.
May a motion to accept.
You already had a motion. You didn't call for a vote.
I'm sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, item is approved. Moving on.
Chair, excuse me, before we move on to new business. Michael, over in the Cottage District, that home that's built over there, who built that home? You can get with me later.
Okay.
Yes, later. Move on.
All right.
Okay. I'll get with you.
Thank you. Nothing wrong with it. Just move on.
All right. So moving on to item 15A, consideration and recommendation of the letter of intent to the Palm Beach County Housing Authority to assist in the development of properties located at 404, 406, 408, and 410 Northwest 12th Avenue.
Yes, Board, you had asked that the letter of intent to enter into an agreement or provide assistance either financially or professionally for the development of single-family affordable housing or affordable housing. You didn't go as far as single-family. To the Housing Authority is attached. The letter is very basic in that it is clear to them that you are asking for them to review your request. One of the suggestions since putting it into the agenda that we've thought about, recommendation from others would be that we want to get on their agenda. So we'd like to add language to the document that says we are requesting that this letter be put on their agenda so that we could actually present it to the board as opposed to just writing the letter to the director.
Tara, do you have any comment?
Pardon me?
Okay, so, I'm not 100% happy with the letter because of just like you said, that this isn't a letter of intent to develop the properties, it's a letter of intent to assist in the development of the properties. And I think that's kind of where, I think this board was that we're not necessarily just wanting to assist, that we want to say, hey, we will move forward with the, to say, hey, if you don't, we'll buy the land, we'll put out our own RFQ for the affordable housing. That was kind of where I think it's missing because we failed to mention that we own the property adjacent in the letter. That I'd like to mention that we have this parcel, if you could determine how many houses that we can build whether they are townhouses or we're required to have single-family homes. I'd like a little bit more specificity in the letter to say what we can do, rather than saying what we want to do. If that's okay with the will of the board.
That's fine, and then present.
Say it again.
I said that is fine, and then present,
So I
get on
guess
their
we're
agenda.
going to ask you to try again.
Okay, that's fine. Happy to do it, and bring it back in June.
Yeah, and so basically to include that fact that we own one of the parcels, the maximum amount of houses that can be built. Want to know if they have any requirements for the affordable housing or home ownership, and that we have financing available in excess, of $500,000 for the construction of houses there or residences there. And, basically we would finance them and then through the sale of them be reimbursed.
Okay, so language that includes acquisition and self-funding the project.
Correct.
Okay.
It's kind of in the sense is that the Palm Beach County Housing Authority has done nothing with the land for so long. We need to have some stronger language to saying that if you're not doing something, give us the land so that we will do something within a certain time period. Is that okay with the will of the board?
Yes.
All right.
And one other change is that you'll all be signatories, as opposed to just, I think, 2 board members. That would be the other change.
Yeah, we want the 2-page letter.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Do you want to include the request to be on the agenda as well? So those 2 changes, in addition
Yeah,
to
we
the
do
stronger
want
acquisition.
final review, because, this is something that we want the county to see, because it's not just, us working with the Palm Beach County Housing Authority. It's, they work with a lot of different municipalities and unincorporated areas, and we want to have that example of what the new Palm Beach County Housing Authority is willing to do.
Great, thank you. Sorry, I missed the mark.
That's okay.
That's why you're the policymakers.
All right. Moving on to item 15D, consideration of responses to an RFP/RFQ for auditing services. Huh?
Happen to be.
Did I miss B? Yes, I did. Consideration of resolution 19, sorry, Vicki. Consideration of resolution 19-02 for match funding for the 2019 Florida Department of State Division of Historic Resources Special Category Grant for the Historic Women's Club of Boynton Beach.
Second.
All right. The discussion that I have is that mentioned earlier, Twee, that you'll come back with other grant applications available
Yes,
for programming.
And other, we'll bring back to you for your input on other uses within the building.
Okay. Any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes unanimously. Now moving on to item 15D, consideration of responses to a RFP/RFQ for auditing services.
Good evening, Board Chair, Vice Chair, and Board members. My name is Vicki Hill, Finance Director. We put a RFQ out for auditing services, and we only received 2 responses, one from our current CPA firm, Sanson Klein, Giacomino, Tandock, and Gamara LLP, and we also received one from Graw and Associates. The auditing committee, which is Mike Simon, myself, and Jabara, we went through and we went by the criteria that was asked, and who we are recommending is Sanson Klein. Do you have any questions?
Right now, I'm just looking for the criteria and the backup. I guess my main question that I guess I would ask is that what makes Sansom the 93 compared to the 85?
The differences were Sanson Klein has audited CRA firms, and Grand Associate has not. And there were other, let's see here. The fee was, there was only a $3,000 difference. And because they had never audited, just because Grand Associates had never audited a CRA, and we have new legislation with the state, we just wanted to make sure that we would comply with everything that is asked for.
All right, and so this is for how many years?
This is for 3 years, and then they can get 3 additional.
So we can approve for their 3 additional years at this price?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then that makes a lot more sense, and so I'm in favor of going with the selected auditing firm. Board Member McCray.
Thank you. I'm in favor of going with it. And Vicki, you answered the question because they ordered CRAs before and they know the language and they know the laws. That's the main thing I'm looking for. I don't want somebody to come in that was not abreast of what's happening in state legislature and what's coming down that's dealing with the laws. I feel more comfortable with someone who's, up on what's happening.
All right.
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Discussion?
Yes.
Didn't have an opportunity to speak. I just wanted to say that my only concern with this, and I do understand the fact that the recommended firm has worked with CRAs, but sitting on being the chair of our solid waste board, our auditing firm is Ground Associates, and we've had 3 years of clean audits with them. So they do have experience in terms of government agencies, and being the fact that they came in at a lower offer, I was willing to go with them. But if it is the consensus of the board or the will of the board to choose the other firm, then by all means.
Any other comments from the board? Any from the audience? Seeing none. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Motion passes unanimously. Any comments for the CRA Advisory Board? Seeing none. Any comments for future agenda items? Seeing none. May I have a motion?
Before we adjourn,
Yeah.
before we get the motion, what time did we flip those signs up out there for parking for the elected officials? 6 o'clock? Okay. Motion to adjourn.
All right. Do I have a second? All right.
We can do it we can do it when we come to set up around 4:30 if you'd like. That's no problem.
Thank you.
I didn't realize it. Thank you.
Meeting's adjourned.
It's no problem. They was on me all night tonight anyway. So
Yeah, well, you weren't alone there.